Friday, July 24th. I'm Scott.
I'm Rim.
And this is Geeknights. Tonight, the demise of the dinner.
Dun, 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 dun.
The...
Demise.
No. What's a word that's synonym with demise?
Let's do this.
The something of the supper.
I created somewhat of a modern spectacle on the train home today.
What could you possibly have done to make a spectacle?
Well, the thing is, basically, everyone who walked by did a double take. Well, because I got on the train. I took a slightly later train.
I took a way later train.
So I get on this train, like 20 minutes before it's going to leave. So as a result, a lot of people walked past me, and almost every single one of them stopped and did some sort of double take at me.
What were you doing?
So I had to bring my work laptop back to work, get some stuff done to it before I brought it home again. And, I have my normal laptop I do stuff on, and the work laptop it's bigger. It's a desktop replacement that I use, for work. It's got this encrypted hard drive. It's kind of like if I go on a trip, but it's a business trip, or I'm working from home. I use this thing and, VPNs into the work network. It's got all the work software.
Yeah, I guess that's all right. I mean, if you're not carrying it too often, then it won't be a physical burden. And that way you don't have to mess up any of your own computers, and you can keep your work computing and your home computing perfectly separate.
The best part is it's got all the work software. So I've got the full-on Adobe and the Office and all those things.
Yeah, that's good
the
stuff.
Oracle, all my server things. Everything I could possibly need for work is on there.
That's good because, I work, most of my work is Linux, so all I really need to do is SSH to the work server. But if I had some sort of pre-configured separate work machine that was, a laptop would be good too, because then I could, give it back to them more easily.
Part of that's that, I don't have admin access on it. I just have my normal work access. And,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
For work, because you're only going to work with it. You're not going to do anything else with it.
But if I need another laptop for whatever reason, I can just boot an Ubuntu CD and rock.
Oh, definitely.
I already tried that. It works just fine.
Of course it works just fine. It's a normal Dell laptop. Why wouldn't it work?
I had to take it in, and I don't have a bag that fits this thing, so basically I just carried it. And on the way in, that's fine. I just put it in my lap and went to sleep, listening to some movies you should see.
Uh-huh.
They actually did a good show, and it was very simple. It's the kind of thing I'd like to do a weak-ass Thursday about.
Man, I like them. And I like their show, and Rich, I am following him on Twitter.
But
I just don't listen to it anymore. I don't know why.
See, I started listening to it again, and as a result, I started watching a lot of movies again.
I just sort of saturated with podcasts in general. I mean, there are podcasts I subscribe to where I just, every episode, it appears in the thing, and I just delete it.
I actually listen to every single episode of every podcast to which I am subscribed, which is 4.
Well, the thing is on the train... it's like I've been listening to less podcasts and doing more, book reading and comic reading and video game playing.
I'm doing 50-50 now. What I'll do is I'll either watch an anime or watch a movie, or work on a blog stuff. I got all these half-written articles I gotta finish. But the other half the time, I'll play Civ 4 or something and listen to podcasts at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much all my activities are taking it back. My podcast listening is taking a back seat to the other things.
I really only listen to Movies You Should See, Dave and Joel, and Anime World Order.
I listen to a few more.
Oh, and NPR, It's All Politics. I love that show.
I listen to some more than that, but, I guess I'm subscribed to more than that, but I'm not listening. And a lot of the ones I'm subscribed to are short.
You know what else I'm subscribed to? Let's see. 12 Byzantine Emperors.
Yeah.
I have listened to it all again, but other than that,
Great.
There aren't going to be new ones. I hope he does a podcast on Venice.
Oh, Venice is awesome.
Anyway, so on the way home, I'm awake, I'm not sleeping, and I want to do stuff. So I don't have anywhere to put this laptop. So I've got this laptop on my lap, and resting on top of it is my other laptop, which is open and I'm using.
All right.
So people are walking by, and they see me with a laptop on my lap closed and another laptop open. And they'd stop and look at it like, what the fuck?
Why is it what the fuck just to have two laptops?
I don't know. It's kind of weird to have two laptops, I guess.
I don't know what's so weird about it. I know people with a lot more than two laptops.
Yes, but to have two on you.
Why not?
I don't know. People looked at me like it was weird. Everyone who walked by looked like, what's he doing?
I saw a guy sitting next to me on the train today. He had a BlackBerry, and then from his pocket, he pulled out a cell phone. Not weird.
See, that's not weird at all, though, because most people have, the work BlackBerry and the home
Two
cell
laptops
phone.
is no weirder.
I think two laptops is kind of weirder, because there's no possible reason to have two laptops out.
Yeah, there is.
What?
To protect your lap from the other laptop.
That's ludicrous.
Because it's real
Plus,
warm.
I mean, while I was doing this, I did actually have the BlackBerry out because I was transferring stuff from the BlackBerry to my laptop with the Bluetooth.
Uh-huh.
I didn't pull my cell phone out because I'm not going to call anyone on the train.
Yeah. No, but there was a meeting at work, but then like one of the bosses who was in on the meeting like wasn't there when it was time for the meeting. The other one was on the phone and wouldn't get off the phone, and so the meeting was late, and then it was even later, so I took a way later train and I got home like 10 minutes
What
ago.
happened to if my work made me late all the time, I'd quit.
It's not all the time. It's one
Yeah, it
time.
is. Yeah, it is because you get home a lot later than you want to.
And what can I do about it?
Quit, like you said you always would. Are you a Barack now?
Where am I gonna go?
I thought it was easy to get another job. I thought your advice
It
was
is.
always
It is easy
trivial.
to get another job. It's not easy to get another job with cool peoples.
I don't know. I got a job with awesome people.
Yeah, but I don't want your job. Your job has other problems.
What problem could my job possibly have? I work in a company where, by and large, everyone is smarter than me.
Because the actual work is not something I want to do, which is the most important thing.
My work is awesome. I'm a
well,
support
I'm not
engineer.
I wouldn't be doing IT work there. If I was doing IT work there, I would take your job. That'd be just fine. I could do that. Be moving VMwares and that sort of thing. I can do that.
So what kind of job do you want?
I want my job is slowly becoming the job I want, which is why it's kind of cool. We're switching from the PHP to the Django's, and like the things, it's like the things that we're suggesting are actually happening. Like we made a wiki for the documentation, and it's like even though we got bought out, it's like now our opinions are somehow mattering more, and we're leaning more in the direction of what we the programmers want to do.
But at the same time, you gotta stay late, take a later train.
Well, maybe that won't be a problem in the future. We'll see.
Should
What
demand more vacation days still.
Well, I got more vacation days when we got bought automatically.
Should get more still.
Well, the thing is now I can't just negotiate that with my boss because now he's an employee too. We need to negotiate that with people in North Carolina, so it's more difficult.
So you got
We'll see. I'm not going to work at this place forever. I mean, come on. I've worked there for 2 years. So
I don't
I'm not
know.
gonna...
I honestly, it's weird, but I worked at IBM, and that was really fun. But I couldn't just work at IBM my whole life. So now I worked at the hospital, and you all know my opinion of the hospital. There were a lot of reasons why I left the hospital, and then
It was sick.
yeah, that was one of the reasons. I can't complain too much about a job where at one point after my third boss quit and they didn't know, like they knew they needed me to do work. There was a lot of work that needed doing. So they basically sent me off to do all the kind of weird work that required judgment on the spot, kind of like a ship's captain, how in the army, no one's really out on his own because there's supply lines all the way back. I'm talking Napoleonic days. So you could send orders pretty easily to most of the people doing all this stuff, but you could send a ship halfway around the world. And you don't know if you're going to make peace or war. I mean, how often in Horatio is he out? They see a Spanish ship and they're like, shit, are we at war? I don't know. Let's see if they shoot at us. Crap, we're at war.
Because if you're real close to Spain, and you're from England or UK, whatever, I guess in those days, yeah, England, then, you've been away from England for X days. They've been away from Spain for maybe a few hours, depending on how close to Spain you are.
There's a good chance they
know the
more.
most current news, but you don't know the most current news.
But at the same time, say you think you're at peace, they know you're at war. But what if you go the other way around? They know there's peace. You think it's still war. You're out there, and the Spanish ship is coming up, and they're yelling, no, peace, no, don't shoot, ah!
They could be faking it, and then pull a surprise attack.
So as
you
a
could do the
result-
same thing.
Yes. So ship's captains were given incredible leeway to, make judgment calls back then.
Of course, if you fucked up, you know what happened.
Yes, with great responsibility comes great risk.
Comes great hanging.
Yes.
Hanging was frequent. Pretty much, if you do this, you will be hanged. If you do this, you'll be hanged.
My favorite part is that
if you do this,
if you read the Articles of War,
hanged.
it's like, if you are convicted of doing such and such, to be hanged or lesser such penalty as deemed appropriate, blah, 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 blah. But then it hits a couple of them like mutiny, and it's like, to be hanged, and that's it.
It's not to be hanged, it's hanged.
No, it's to be hanged, but there's none of that or lesser such punishment. There isn't even the option of doing less to you.
Yeah, it's pretty much like, I don't know how many times in a ratio the books and the movies they're just like, you know what the penalty is for that? Hanging. There's nothing we can do to save you, even though we know that you did it for a good reason.
So Horatio does something awesome to get the guy off.
Yeah. It's like, there's no way off the hook, man. It's hanging. That's it.
In one of the books, he is obligated to hang someone for disobeying an order. The order was that he was in the Marine band, and he refused to play a B flat because it was the wrong note because the music was written poorly. And the order was given by technically a superior officer.
Yep, refusing to play a note, breaking an order, only option, hanging.
And the funny part is Horatio's like, I gotta hang him. And his wife is like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Anyway,
Yeah.
so back at the hospital, I was kind of like a ship's captain at this point. So they'd send me off, like whatever there was something weird going on.
Yo ho.
They'd send me off like, all right, Brandon, because they didn't. That job didn't know my name was Rim because they didn't deserve to know my real life.
But your real name is Brandon. Rim is the fake name.
The thing is, my quote unquote fake name is used by more people, both that I know and that know me, than my quote unquote real name.
Why don't you just then go to the judge and say, change my name?
Actually, I looked into it, and the only reason I haven't is that it's a giant pain in the ass.
It's not that hard. You just have to go get a new ID at the DMV.
No, it's a giant pain in the... I don't think you understand the pain in the ass it is to actually change your name.
It can't be that hard. People do it all the time.
No, they don't. And two, when you do, most people who do it are kind of poor. If you have a bunch of credit cards and a bunch of investments and all this kind of, economic and all these things around you, they all have to be changed. Most people don't have straightforward policies. Your mail gets fucked up forever. Your credit rating gets fucked up until you deal with it at every agency. It's this gigantic snafu.
You just call every single place and say, I changed my name. I changed my name.
I did the research, and all the research indicates that it's such a pain in the ass, and half the time a lot of people who suck just don't have the capability to deal with your name change. And
I can't imagine if it happened to me, all right, if I want to change my name to Joe, I'll say, go to the DMV. I got to call my credit card company and the bank and my job and the post office.
Yes, I have to call all of my credit card companies. I also have to deal with my health insurance. I have to deal with my investments. There's a lot to it.
I would just tell my job and the HR person would take care of it.
No, usually they won't, and there's a lot to it.
Oh, they will.
Also, you've got to make sure your medical records get transferred right. Old medical records might just disappear.
You know what? If they don't do it, I could just quit, go get a new job, and fill out all the new job paperwork with my new name.
Regardless, I don't know why you're arguing. Apparently, it's a giant pain in the ass. Plus,
it's not a pain in the ass.
In most jurisdictions, you actually have to go before a judge and prove a valid reason for changing your name. They can just say no.
That'd be fun.
Usually, it's not.
Why not?
From what I read, it's not, because the judges don't care.
Judges are cool.
Sometimes.
I just gotta be friendly with the judge.
Yeah.
Be like, what's up, judge? Yeah.
Anyway, so they'd send me off, and they'd be like, all right, drive to this hospital. It's like 20 miles away or 30 miles away, like down somewhere weird. Go to White Plains. There's
with
this hospital.
With the wigs and the robes.
We don't know what's going on. Go figure out where our switches went. So I'd go out there, and they'd basically say, report back to us in a week. And that was the extent of my orders. So I'd go and I'd resolve the problem immediately, or I'd find out what the problem was and I'd report back and I'd be like, here's the problem. What do you want me to do? And they'd say, hang on, we'll figure out what we want you to do. And then a week would go by, and every day I'd dutifully say, what do you want me to do? And they'd say, I don't know, go to the hospital and wait. And as I learned, they would never tell me what to do after I got to the hospital. And eventually, if I kept asking, they'd say, oh, it's like 5, go home. So I'd ask what to do. They'd say, wait. And then I would just go somewhere and hang out. I had my cell phone. If they actually wanted me to do work, they could call me. They'd never call me, and then I'd go home. And then a week would go by without me doing any work.
Yep.
That job was awesome, and not in the awesome way.
That was like my job, middle of nowhere. I go to the middle of nowhere.
You'd have to drive to that office where there was no one and do nothing and then drive home.
Well, there was technically a work I was supposed to be doing. They wanted me to basically make a new version of this existing application, right? And I'm like, okay, what exactly do you want me to do differently? Like, what are the specifications for this remake of this project? And they were like, all right, we'll have a meeting about that. And I'm like, okay. Occasionally, the project I had already completed needed a little bit of maintenance, but that was like once every couple of weeks, a tiny bit of work. So it was mostly just being like, hey, are we going to discuss? And someone's like, oh, well, you can at least do this part. We don't need to discuss that. I'm like, okay. I never did that part. No one noticed. No one talked to me. No one cared. No one said anything to me. No one checked to see what work I was doing. No one checked on the progress. No one noticed this meeting wasn't happening. Apparently they wanted it done, but they didn't want it done badly enough to actually pay attention to me. If I hadn't quit, I probably could have had that middle of nowhere job until now still, just doing nothing. And I probably wouldn't have done any more work now than was completed then.
Didn't you bring your DDR pad out there at one point?
I did. I had my DDR pad out there, and I would just play Stepmania instead of working.
Man, that's a good life. To a point.
It was okay until I went insane from being in the middle of nowhere.
See, I don't know. If I had a job like that, I would consider it a month or two worth of getting everything I needed to get done in my life and then quitting.
Yes, the problem is that while I was working in the middle of nowhere, I realized too late that I could have just not gone to the middle of nowhere and just stayed home.
Every day I was like, why don't you just get another job?
Because it was just like, it's sort of like that.
And you know what? Even better, just get another job. Don't even say anything. Just see how long they keep paying you.
Yeah, but then there could have been some legal problems later.
There are ways around that.
I don't know about that.
I wouldn't have worried.
That's the problem, is I worried just a little too much about, because the CEO of the company lived like around the corner, and sometimes he'd drop in like maybe once a month.
And if he dropped in and you weren't there, he'd probably say, where were you? And you could be like, I was going out to lunch and I had a flat tire and I had to deal with it. There's no work to do, so I didn't bother calling anyone. And then I'd just show up for the next couple weeks.
Yeah, but anyway. Yeah. Oh, well.
Or you put a cardboard cutout of yourself in the distance, like if there's a glass door in the entrance, and break the door so it won't open, like his card won't work. And
it was a bad time. I really regret. I could have done a lot of things in that time that I didn't do, but
I would have gone on vacation. Seriously,
I played a lot of video games, and
I would have made a blog of.
I listened to a lot of podcasts.
You know what you do? It's like that comic, You Damn Kid, where it's like, so is he going to work? He's got a new job. And they're like, yeah, the over under is 5 days before he gets fired. What you could have done is made a blog called "My Boss Doesn't Know I'm Not Working and Doesn't Seem to Care," and have bets on when he finds the blog and what he does when he finds it.
See, I'm a lot smarter now than I was then. So it's back then my best idea was I'll play Stepmania in the office and say I'm exercising. If they
that's like the plan of, I have found a soda machine that gives free soda. I'm going to get one free soda and then never come back and laugh about it for a week.
Yes.
As opposed to, I'm going to make a blog about this soda machine.
Yep.
Anyway, I got one hell of a news here, so let's just get
I don't have any news. Well, he's not a...
That's
I
fine.
didn't feel like it, because I got home late, and at work I was actually working.
It's Geeknights Thursdays, the lounge. We can do whatever we want. There's no such thing as news.
Can we just end the show so I can go eat and then go to bed?
So I want to talk about this because this is one of those crazy things. Like when I heard in the news a while, way back, that Reiser, as in the guy who made Reiser FS,
Hans Reiser.
Yes, he is charged with murdering his wife in this crazy elaborate scheme. It's just this crazy court case. And then the news much later, found guilty much later, told everyone what he did with the body.
Yeah, it was like when he was just in the first part of that trial where he was just crazy and weird. It was like, well, there's a lot of circumstantial evidence and anecdotal evidence and character evidence that he probably did it, but there's all this weirdness going on, and we don't really know he did it. There's no proof, and there was definitely reasonable doubt, but he was found guilty because he was crazy, and the jury convicted him because he was a nut job and he didn't know when to keep his mouth shut. And then he's like, oh, by the way, the body's here. So it's like, oh, you did do it. Genius.
So this is that times a little bit.
How could it be? Oh, times a little bit. Okay. I was like, how could it be more than that?
It's on a similar level of just, you read the news and go, what? Is that a joke?
All right.
Oh, I guess it isn't. So, the Spam King, Edward Eddie Davidson.
I never heard of him, but I've heard of many Spam Kings. Many people have been called the Spam King.
No, this guy was the Spam King. There were articles about him forever. He finally went to jail in April for spamming.
Really? I thought they just jail for spamming now?
Do you read the news?
Well, there's that Can Spam Act, but it's so weak.
All right. This guy was the Spam King.
All right.
He was known as the Spam King, blah, 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 blah. He was sent to jail. Now, when they say jail, basically he was sent to the most minimum security facility there is.
So wait, was this like the lockup in the police station, or was this actually a county jail, or
it was
what?
Prison, not jail.
Oh, so it was
he
prison.
was sent to a federal prison camp, which
a federal prison,
yes, it was a federal law, and he broke it.
Oh, that's true.
Now, federal prison camps are basically take Cool Hen Luke without the psychological torture, without the dying, and without the hard labor. It's basically summer camp.
Really?
Yes.
Man, I should become the spam king.
They make
get
you
to go to summer
they make
camp.
you do menial work for nearby prisons that are more security.
Like what kind of menial work do you do? Like,
I don't know.
mopping?
But basically, it's like summer camp.
Mop.
There's almost no guards.
Nick wallets.
And he was only supposed to be there for like 21 months.
21 months is a long time, but it's not longer than I was in the middle of nowhere, which is basically the same thing.
They also made him give up all the gold coins that he bought to hide his money.
It's pretty
And they
good.
made him pay a $714,000 restitution to the IRS. Which,
Here's a funny side story, right? I was talking with a coworker like a week or two ago, right? And he mentioned, I was talking about PayPal and some other stuff and a guy getting screwed on eBay and whatnot. And he's like, yeah, once I paid for something with eGold. And eGold is a website.
oh, eGold.
eGold is a website that's sort of like PayPal, but the way it works is you give them money, then they give you, they have gold. They actually have gold that is represented by your money. And then they give,
They show you a picture of your gold.
right, and then they give, I guess they don't physically do it, but financially speaking, you're buying gold, then by giving them cash, then they transfer the ownership of that gold to someone else who then can turn it into cash if they want to. So you are basically buying something with gold, which is, really good for the person on the other end of the line who wants to be paid in gold rather than paid in whatever currency you happen to use. Of course, recently, this is funny because he talked about using eGold years and years ago, and I'd never heard of it before. But just like a few days ago, there was a story on the internet's eGold, mad money laundering going on. Big surprise! Big surprise is money laundering with the gold transactions.
You know what? I heard something else. So Penn Jillette was walking around, and so he said something that offended someone.
Gasp!
Right.
Gee, I never would have thought that these instant gold transfers a la PayPal type setup are money laundering heaven.
So the Spam King, his wife visited him in prison, as she's allowed to do, and he didn't have
Doing the visiting with the wall and the phone?
that much time left to go. And, well, it's minimum security, so they got to actually
So is the
be
park
together.
bench out in the grass?
Something like that.
All right. With the fence around it?
So he forces her to take him back to the car, and he totally escapes,
Okay.
thus turning his 21-month prison sentence into, well, you're fucked now. So he gets away. He escapes from the federal prison. He's at large.
all he did was walk to a car, get in, and drive real fast?
Yes.
They didn't chase him?
He went home to his house, apparently, got a change of clothes, and then booked.
How did they not go to? Why didn't they go to his house and wait for him there?
Because he went right away. It's like he went straight to his house and got away.
He must have lived really close.
Well, they couldn't drive there faster, and they didn't know he broke out right away. But, quote, he jumped in the car with his wife. When they were leaving, he forced her into the car, brought them home, and left after a change of clothes. He is still at large.
All right. Well, see, now his options are pretty rough because it's like he's got to hide somewhere, which,
Well, if he
doesn't
had-
have too many places to hide.
Considering he had gold coins and all this money, I'm sure there was more money hidden. I'm sure he retrieved that money.
Perhaps. But, I mean, he can't really cross a border to get away.
Yes, he can. Depends. If he makes it to the Mexican border or the Canadian border, you can totally just go over.
Where's he going to go over where there aren't people, guarding?
You ever been to the Canadian border? There are a lot of places where you can just walk across. There's no roads, no nothing.
Uh-huh.
Same with Mexico.
All right, so now he's in Canada. What's he going to do in Canada?
Use his money, find some mafia, get a fake name, live a life of luxury.
Possible, but
So
it's still difficult.
So what do you think happened? Because actually there was a fairly speedy update. In fact, it was a recent update. I read this immediately on Fark because I was home. I was working on stuff. Scott wasn't home, so we're not doing the show. And I see news that I did not believe.
All right.
So,
What could it
Edward
possibly
Davidson,
be?
a.k.a. the Spam King, who reportedly forced his wife to help him escape from a Colorado prison on Sunday, has killed himself, a woman, and a toddler.
What?
Yes. Earlier Tuesday, Colorado affiliate 9 blah 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 news reported that 3 people have been found dead at an apparent murder-suicide in the area. He didn't live at this house apparently, but as far as they can tell, he shot himself and his wife and a toddler. But there was another child in the car who he did not shoot and is fine. He also shot a young girl who survived and was being questioned by police at the time of this press release.
Wait, it's the same guy. So he escaped from prison to kill people.
And then he disappeared for a while, and they found him and a bunch of people dead, and it looks like he shot them and himself.
He was probably, my guess, based on common sense.
I'm curious, because I have my own guess.
My guess is that he was somehow, trying to, hide in these people's house or forcing them to help him hide or something like that. And of course, it didn't turn out well. And he gave up.
Well, my belief is that the wife or someone is trying to talk him down with, look, you didn't have that long to go at summer camp. Now, you're going to go to a real jail, and it's going to suck, and you're going to be there forever.
If you get caught, I mean, if he wasn't caught yet until he did the killing.
But my imagination is, you didn't think your clever plan through, you're going to get caught. If you turn yourself in now and just let us go, this is probably going to be okay.
Here's another guess, right? Okay, so he's out. Right? And they're not on his tail at all, right? They can't really find him because he did a good job of hiding. But he's real paranoid now, super paranoid. So he's like, forcing his wife and the other people near to him, to like not do anything and such and making life generally miserable. And the paranoia of, be watching out and not doing anything because it might get you caught and not knowing what will get you caught and such eventually drives him nuts over the days. And then he's nuts. And then, of course, killing people.
There are reports that he was kind of paranoid and weird before all this.
So, yeah.
But I think that what the final straw was probably, as his wife is explaining all this, he realizes, oh, wait, I totally fucked up. Mm-hmm. And then he panics and just goes crazy. And then,
possibly,
quote, when deputies arrived on the scene, it is actually really sad what happened. We did find an adult male deceased by the driver's door of a silver SUV. We did find a female adult deceased by the passenger door of the SUV. And we did find a 7 to 8 month old little boy in the back seat who appeared to be uninjured, but was transported by rescue personnel as precaution.
Are these their kids? Where did these kids come from?
Unfortunately, inside the car was also found a little girl who we believe was about 3 years old, and she was deceased. We did find another victim who was shot and who managed to run to a neighbor's house. She's a teenage girl, transported with a gunshot wound, but she was coherent and talking to rescue personnel. Davidson had served less than 2 months of his 21-month prison sentence when he escaped.
What? So wait, whose children were these?
No one knows. This is a developing story.
What do you mean no one knows who the children's parents were?
All right, so the police show up. All these people are dead just a little while ago. What the shit?
Hey, kid, who's your mom?
Yes, and they don't tell reporters right away. So I'm not going to do the play-by-play or wait for updates, but this went kind of crazy out of control in a hurry.
That is pretty crazy. I mean, if he escaped from prison, something is not easy to do, even the minimum security prison.
Even Cool Hand Luke, when they caught him, and they brought him back, and they roughed him up a little bit, but that's all that happened. He didn't go crazy and kill anyone.
Yeah.
Of course, Cool Hand Luke was awesome.
He was cool. This guy, not cool. This guy was not Cool Hand. This guy was Spam King.
Gots to be cool.
I mean, if you're the king of such bad tasting meat, I mean, that's a bad thing to be a king of. I'd rather be a spam popper than a spam
ever
king.
Eaten spam? Don't dare conflate Spam the meat with Spam the spam.
They both suck equally.
Spam the meat is mighty tasty.
First of all, it's not meat. Second of all, it's not tasty. That's basically you were false on 2 counts.
You realize Spam is just cured ham.
It's not ham, it's fake.
It's just cured ham.
No, it's artificial ham imitation.
What is it, Scott? I suggest you go to Wikipedia and look up what Spam is.
Imitation ham.
I'm going to read an excerpt here.
Spam, 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 spam.
Wonderful spam, wonderful spam, 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 spam,
spam.
Wikipedia's, oh God, there's a million articles.
What about the spam?
All right,
king?
Scott, quote, Spam Luncheon Meat is a canned, pre-cooked meat product made by the Hormel Foods Corporation.
Yeah.
It is meat.
Yeah, it's, maybe technically it's meat, but it is not real meat.
What do you define real? That's a no true Scotsman argument.
No, I mean, it could be rats. That's meat.
Yes, it is
not.
meat. But you can't say it's not meat.
It is not. It is and it isn't.
No, it is. What is the definition of meat, Scott? Don't pull this no true Scotsman bullshit with me. You call everyone on no true Scotsman. You're not going to get away with that bullshit now.
Well, you see, the problem is there's multiple definitions of meat. You see,
no,
the one definition of meat
aren't.
is flesh of animal.
That is the definition of meat.
The other definition of meat is edible flesh of animal, you see, and it is definitely not edible.
Spam is perfectly edible. And
No, you see,
spoiled
because
meat
there are
is still
two
meat.
definitions of edible, you see.
No. You
There's
know what?
definition of edible, which is able to be eaten without killing, and then there is the other definition of edible, which is good for eating.
No, you see, what you're doing here, Scott, what you're doing is you're taking the No True Scotsman and you're hiding it behind pedantry. You're a pedantic, no true Scotsman.
That's fine. What's wrong with that?
All right, anyway.
I mean, it's the same way that
That what?
checkers is a game, but on the other hand, it is not a game.
Yes, it is. It's a good game, in fact.
Not that good. Well, checkers is maybe a bad example. Perhaps Final Fantasy is a game, but it is not a game.
No,
And
it's
that-
very clearly a game.
Well, it is a game by the definition of a thing that you do to entertain yourself. As it's a good game, but it is not a test of skills. It is a test of patience.
Anyway, things of the day.
So check this out. Back in Rochester, where we went to school, is the place of Kodak, and it's Eastman Kodak. So there's a place called the George Eastman House, and they have, of course, many old films and photos and things, and it's sort of a museum type of place. And I could say more about it, but you can find out enough on the internets. But what they did is they took a bunch of their wicked old photos, like we're talking 1900 something, like early 20th century photography, and they put it on the Flickr, and you can go check it out. And I'm looking through it, and I'm like, wow, that's cool, wow, that's cool, wow, that's cool. But then like, hey, that's a famous photo. I've seen that before. And then, oh, that's cool, that's cool. Oh, that's another famous photo I've seen before. And they're all on the Flickr in really high quality. And there's, looking at it in many ways, I realized that, even though things nowadays are way better than things were in the early 20th century, there were a few things here and there they had better than we have now.
Oh,
For
such
example, they
as?
had houses on trains. We don't have houses on trains anymore.
Well, that's because the trains don't go everywhere.
They
Instead, Scott, we have Winnebagos. We have houses on roads.
They had blimps. We don't
Blimps
have
are coming
blimps.
back, actually, in a big way.
We don't have blimps though. We have the MetLife blimp, which doesn't count.
Actually, cargo blimps are coming back in a big way.
We'll
with fuel
see about
prices.
that. I still haven't seen one. I'll believe it when I see one flying over the house.
Okay.
Seeing a picture on the internet does not count.
I got
Yeah.
more than just that, but anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So it's pretty cool checking this shit out, and if you've got 20 minutes, click and look at old photos, and you can see what the world looked like in the early 20th century, over 100 years ago.
So, in 1985, at the Grammy Awards, a confluence of awesome occurred. Every now and then, like, a bunch of really awesome people get together and do something, and then that sort of thing is kind of rare. Like, it'd be like if, I don't know, lead singer from the best band in the world and the best writer from the best band. It's like the all-star game of music or
See,
of
the thing
art.
is, a lot of times when they do that at the Grammy Awards, it's like, hey, we'll take two famous people, put them on stage at the same time, but then there'll be like a lip sync thing, and it's all sort of scripted and blend. It's not really as awesome as if they actually rocked out together,
Well,
'Cause the Grammys is sort of like, it's got the tone of an award show event. It doesn't have the tone of like the arena concert of all time. Let's get it on, yeah.
Well, it really depends, but this one is pretty cool. This is the 1985 A Musical Act at the Grammy Awards, and the one thing I want to point out is that 1985 was the year when Cyndi Lauper was still pop. Well,
I was 3 years old. Take
I think
that,
she
old
was
man.
just becoming popular.
You know who I'm
in
talking
fact.
to, old man.
The thing is, I actually was a big fan of Cyndi Lauper when I was a kid.
I didn't know who it was.
She sang the Goonies song, "Good Enough for You, Good Enough, It's Good Enough."
I don't know who it is still.
Really?
Still,
The
yeah.
Goonies song. Anyway, so they got Thomas Dolby.
I don't know who that is. Is he the guy from Dolby Digital?
No, in fact, he was sued by Dolby Digital for using the name Dolby.
But is that his real name?
No.
Oh, okay. So then they could sue him.
Herbie Hancock.
I kind of know who that is.
You don't know what the... Get the hell off my show. Howard Jones
Don't know who that is.
and Stevie Wonder.
I know who that is.
And in 1985, synthesizers were not like they are today. So this is a keytarin, vocal, whatever boxing. This is epic.
Stevie Wonder is the master of all synthesizers.
Beyond that, Stevie Wonder, I think my favorite thing about him is the way he smiles when a crowd is cheering for him. He always kind of like rears up and then
Yep.
kind of jives back and forth with this big grin. I love Stevie Wonder.
He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, this video is pretty cool, and let me tell you, I love the sound of old synthesizers, even though a lot of people, they sound cheesy, and they do
It
sound cheesy.
depends on how they're being used and such. You know,
Well,
you can.
80s synthesizers sound cheesy partly because of the way they were used. And as a result, when you hear the sounds they can make, the sounds are automatically associated with cheesiness. But I think they're pretty cool, and I think this is pretty cool.
I think it depends with the 80s synthesizers. They can be cool or uncool.
So what'd you eat for dinner?
2 chocolate chip cookies and some apple juice.
Well, I had a bowl of ice cream and 4 Jamaican beef patty bites.
Sesame stick.
Oh, and a handful of sunflower seeds.
Sesame breadstick. Oh, some prunes. I finished off the bag of prunes.
When I came home, I cut up some smoked Gouda and had it with some Melba toast.
Uh-huh. That's not much of a dinner, really. I mean, how many food groups did I cover? Fruit, and cookie.
You forgot yellow.
Oh, and bread. So fruit, cookie, bread. I didn't get any vegetable or meat or dairy.
You're missing yellow and grape drink.
I really need that meat food group. Well, I did have 2 tiny tacos today. That covered my meat, kinda.
See, at least I have these 4 Jamaican beef patties that I cooked and they're too hot to eat, so they're sitting on the desk next to the microphone.
I'm not
right
a
now.
fan of the Jamaican beef patties.
I don't know why. They're pure delicious.
Not really, no.
Delicious in a flaky golden crust.
No. Well, we tried to make those frozen nachi yesterday. That
was terrible.
Well, it wasn't terrible. Like didn't taste bad. But what it was is the nachi were like the frozen nachi. I boiled them and scooped them out like it said to, and they were basically just like tasteless. Like it was just tasteless mush ball things.
Here's what I don't get, right? So it seems like a lot of Americans eat, like I see so much frozen food and I see people buying so much of it, but
Well, I mean, it's really, really convenient. Just, take some food, heat it up, eat it. It doesn't take very long. You don't have to do a lot of work.
Here's
you don't
the thing,
make a big
though.
mess.
One, it takes longer than ramen.
It does take longer. Oh, man, we should eat ramen instead.
We ate it all.
Oh.
All that's left is
You should have bought more.
I know, but I didn't.
Just like I should have bought index cards for our panel.
All that's left is the emergency ramen.
Is it what kind of emergency ramen is it?
Top.
Well, which flavor?
I don't know, chicken?
That's okay. Ish.
At least it's not Maruchan.
It's not the Ichiban though, so it's
Yeah, or the fancy ones. But I lost my train of thought, which is kind of awesome. All right, so the frozen food, right? Every time I think, oh, let's try one of those frozen meals or frozen dinners, they're so awful that they're not worth the convenience. I would rather eat nothing or eat garbage than eat those things. They're so tasteless.
Not everything in the frozen aisle is bad. For example, you can get the frozen like Ora-Ida potato things, especially like the onion tater tots. Those are good. You can also get what's the other brand? The Alexa potato wedges. Those are good too.
Yeah, Jamaican beef patties.
It's mostly frozen potato chip or potato French fry type things, tater tots, that sort of stuff. Those are good. Also, there are a few frozen pizzas are good. Not most of them are bad, but some are good, like those 2 Leonard's ones. I like me an Eggo waffle, but Rim does not. But you could make a good frozen waffle.
I guess what I don't get is that in the time it takes to deal with one of those frozen meals that tastes like crap, you could make any kind of egg meal, like any kind of combination of eggs and butter on a pan.
Yep, you could definitely make an omelet. An omelet is just as easy as any, frozen dinner. The thing is, Rim, is that we don't realize we don't have the microwave. If we had the microwave, then a lot more of those meals would be available to us.
Have you eaten?
And it would be a lot more convenient. But they're as disgusting, if not more disgusting.
Usually more disgusting.
Yes, but the convenience level would be there over the omelet that we currently don't have.
It's just as convenient. It takes you 5 minutes to make an omelet. From start to finish, unless you're incompetent.
No, but it's like you got to chop the stuff up, and you got to.
You know what? Just
a microwave dinner. You put it in the microwave. You push a button.
Scrambled eggs.
Yep.
Require nothing.
You got to scramble, you got to pour it into the thing, and you got to move the spatula around. With the microwave dinner, you put it in the thing, you push a button. That's it. You're done.
The thing is, the scrambled eggs taste 1,000 times better.
They sure do.
The only problem with
they taste infinity. Well,
yes.
No, they taste an imaginary number better because because what happens is the TV dinner has a negative taste. You see, so if you were to divide the flavor rating, which is a very large positive number of the scrambled egg, by the negative number of the flavor of the TV dinner, you'll get an imaginary number.
I guess this is kind of in our eyes an indictment of the people who eat these frozen dinners on a regular basis because they're so bad that I would rather not eat dinner than eat them. And the fact that there's so many of them and I see people buying them all the time, we wonder why people are fat in this country. If you're that lazy.
Well, it's because they go for the fast food, not for the TV. The TV dinner helps, but it's mostly the McDonald's. But, I mean, there are dinners you can get in a can that are better than the ones that are frozen. I mean, even like Campbell's soup. It's all right. It's not, great, but it's okay. Ramen, it's not great, but it's okay. And you can get good ramen, too, for like a few dollars instead of a 10-cent ramen.
Thing is, I remember back to college thinking, the quick meals. Pretty much, what did we eat? We ate ramen.
You can get a can of chili, and it's not too bad.
Yeah, of course, chili is also stupidly easy to make.
You can also get like a pre-prepared salad and then put salad dressing on it, and you're good to go. That's awesome.
Yeah, our problem is we've been living our college lifestyle again, where we basically don't cook a real dinner, and then it's late and we're hungry. So we eat something convenient and go to sleep.
Yeah, this is why I'm really torn about this. Ideally, what I should be doing with my current, life schedule is eating a humongous lunch and then not eating so much for dinner, but it won't matter because I got my nutrition at lunch. The thing is, I really don't want to spend money for a big, awesome lunch because I save money by making my peanut butter and jelly. And I'm torn between, should I continue this trend of not getting proper nutrition and not eating a good enough dinner? Or even if I do eat enough good enough dinner, it's right before I go to bed, which is really not so great. Eating a whole bunch of food, then going to bed immediately instead of using the food.
See, what I've been doing...
Or should I break the bank and get proper nutrition but just go out and eat awesome lunches every day?
Maybe it's just a factor of making a lot more money and caring, like, the amount I care about money is getting really not cool because I'm spending money left and right. But I've got to the point where I will pretty much eat, at least on the days we do the show, a full dinner at lunch and then a light dinner when I get home.
Maybe that's what I could do, is on the days when we're doing a show, I will go out and get an awesome lunch. But on the days when we're not doing a show, I'll just eat my peanut butter and jelly, still save some monies, and then we'll have to cook, though.
Maybe because I'm running like every day and all this stuff now, literally, I could eat like a double cheeseburger, a real one. I'll go to Good Burger. A double cheeseburger, onion rings, fries, and a root beer float.
Even in high school, I could never eat a double cheeseburger. I could not even. I would eat like a single hamburger.
The thing is, a double cheeseburger at the Good Burger isn't like a McDonald's, with all the... It's basically 2 entire hamburgers, like real ones.
Well, that's the thing is, for some reason, I can eat 2 hamburgers separate, but the double hamburger, right, where it's 2, meats on the same bun, that's just inedible for some reason.
But like a few days ago, I was like, all right, I'm really hungry because I've been running and all this, and I'm going to run when I get home. So I'm going to eat a big lunch. Well, first for breakfast, I had a sausage, egg, and cheese, like on a bagel. And an orange juice and a Red Bull and all that.
Yeah,
business.
I was sort of helping out by eating breakfast again, but we ran out of English muffins, and those were that was my go-to breakfast.
I buy my breakfast every day. So sausage, egg, and cheese with a Red Bull and orange juice for breakfast.
That's great.
And then for lunch, I went to the Good Burger and I got a double cheeseburger, onion rings, and a root beer float.
And a Red Bull.
No, only one Red Bull.
Okay.
So I figured I'd be good between the two. But then I was still hungry, like crazy hungry, like all day, despite I was full when I ate that. Then a few hours later, I was hungry again. So I went out, got some beard papas, and I ate those. And then I was hungry again immediately after. So I came home and I made a big dinner and I ate it. And then I went out running and I did all my stuff. And then Scott came home, we watched something. And I was still hungry. So I made a fried egg before I went to bed.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just that I'm getting home just an hour later, which is still enough time to do the show, and it's not too bad, really. But, it's sort of that hour was the hour we used to cook dinner, and now it's like get home, we do the show. By the time the show is over, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to eat dinner at 9 o'clock. That's already crazy. I mean, I get home at 7 something. I'd like to eat dinner at 5, 6. I wouldn't want to eat dinner at 7. It's really... It's not good at all. It's like the time when dinner should be eaten is the time when I'm on the train. And it's unpleasant to say the least.
So at least, on the days we don't do the show.
And that's the time I want to be eating dinner. So the time when I should be cooking dinner is the last hour I'm at work.
See, the way I do it is at least on the days we don't do the show, I usually come home and I make a dinner that'll be ready right around when Scott and Emily get home. And that works pretty well, but I can't make dinner all the time.
Hell, before I was coming home late, and I was actually making dinner once or twice a week, and I'd make chicken once or twice a week of different varieties and things. And I haven't cooked anything in a couple months, and I feel bad about it, but I can't really do anything about it either.
course, part of this is we're starting to realize more and more that it almost seems like America, at least outside of the major cities.
Outside of major cities, outside of college towns, normal suburban United States, the average town.
It's like there is no way for people like us who are not members of nuclear families and who have jobs to do most of the things that normal people in society are expected to do.
I mean, the society is really structured in a way to where without a nuclear family kind of situation, things can be very inconvenient. For example, if you had a nuclear family, right, one person goes to work, one person stays home, or maybe one person, even if they commute far away, the other person might work locally, in town somewhere. Or if or work from home or something. So if a package comes, someone is home to get the package. Or you make so much money, you have a nanny or a house cleaner or someone to, be home and get the package. If you want to go eat out, you're home early enough and you can just go somewhere nearby to eat out. If, your whole house is full of commuters, you get home at 7, everything closes.
Well, no, that's the thing at least. All the restaurants are open. We can just go to a restaurant and eat out, and it's great. The problem is that does get very expensive eating out at real restaurants every single night.
It also makes you very fat very quickly.
Not if you're active.
No, but I mean, you gotta, eating out at restaurants too much is not so good. You definitely want to be eating in the food you cook in your house is far better in terms of
Yeah, but
health.
then go back to college where I cooked most of my meals, but most of my meals consisted of 2 to 4 eggs.
Most of my meals were like a hot dog on a plate.
God, I remember we'd have dinners where literally, both our plates would have, some scrambled eggs, some cooked hot dogs, and, some bread to use as buns.
See, that's the thing. It's I had the best intentions. When we got to RIT, I brought my parents' old kitchen table. I cooked, a big spaghetti and meatball dinner for everyone. We all, grouped up, and, then someone tried to cook a stir fry, and then that lasted maybe a couple weeks, and before you knew it, we put the kitchen table out, aside saying, take this, it's free, because he was just taking up space and we weren't using it. And the communal cooking real dinners thing totally didn't happen anymore. And it was game over. And Emily, when she got out of college and started living in Beacon, I saw my past self in her, because she was like, let's cook dinner every night. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I thought. And then, she was like, oh, this sucks. She was complaining because it wasn't happening. And then she was just like, yeah, I see why it doesn't happen.
And it totally sucks. The thing is, though, she's been having a renaissance of cooking dinner lately. We actually had a really good dinner. And the thing is, the only problem here is that we were doing okay, actually. Before Scott started coming home late, we actually cooked dinner, five nights a week.
At least 3 nights a week. At least 3.
Usually a good 4 or 5 nights a week, we would cook a real dinner.
Not all of those meals might have been awesome,
but they were good enough.
Were okay enough. They were better than hot dog on a plate.
The thing is, Emily is a lot better than us at improvising with, just whatever's laying around. She made collard greens and rice and some eggs and some naan. It was super good last night.
Uh-huh.
Of course,
I don't like the collard greens, but that's all right.
I love collard greens.
No, not a fan.
But it was great because she's like, I'm going to cook dinner. I was like, awesome. Because I was basically going to eat the emergency ramen and go to sleep otherwise.
Oh.
So she kind of saved me there. But yeah, basically, Scott, what it really boils down to is you get home late and that fucks everything up.
I don't know. Maybe I'll do something about it.
Yeah, at least we can get through con season first.
Yeah. I realize, it would solve everything.
If we formed a studio.
No.
And lived as a company.
No. If we had a personal chef. We just pay them to come to the house around, 5, 6 o'clock every day, cook a dinner, and they don't even have to stick around. They just could leave it in the fridge or something and, or just keep it hot somewhere where we can just come home and eat it.
Well, the other thing we could do is I could cook more, because I was doing this for a while, where I'd cook Swiss steaks or a mini pot roast or chili or a bean soup, things that I can start, I get home from work. I put it all together, or a casserole, and I set it cooking. And then around 7, it's done, and then we eat it. And then I save the other half of it and just reheat it the next day.
There is one, there's a guy I work...
The only reason I'm not doing that is con season. We're busy doing stuff every day now.
Yeah, there's a guy I work with, and he still lives with his parents in Jersey, but... he's got, they all work, they're he has a twin sister who's also working and his parents are working. So there's no one in the house, but, they got to eat dinner. So what they do is actually on the weekend, they cook 4 or 5 dinners and then they set them all up in the refrigerator, and then they reheat them throughout the week for dinner. So, one person, someone comes home at 11 and someone else comes home at 6 and someone else comes home at, 1 a.m. because they went out partying. There's something to eat. They can, reheat a portion of one of the meals. And, by the end of the week, all the meals are out. Then they go out to eat. And then on Sunday, they cook, 5 more meals. And we could do that, except we use our Sundays because we don't get enough time off work. We need that to do stuff like our geeky endeavors. They're not so much with the geeky endeavors. While they're cooking their meals Sunday, they're just watching a football or something.
Hey,
whereas
remember?
we can't do that while we're playing a video game. Or
remember the days when we had this house? We were not podcasters. We were just geeks out of college.
And we watched this Netflix every single day.
Every day.
And every weekend we drove up the road to play DDR.
Of course, the thing
and
is,
go to the anime store.
Back then, remember, there were other. I mean, not only were we not podcasting, and no one else lived around, so there was no one else to hang out with. And Scott got out of work earlier, and I worked at IBM. So,
I was working in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so he could leave whenever he wanted. And
actually, for a while, I was working in the city and then the middle of nowhere. But
I worked 5 minutes away from our house at IBM, so I could leave whenever I wanted and go in whenever I wanted.
Yep.
So, I would come home for lunch half the time because it was right here.
Yep.
So we'd come home from work at 5. We'd be home. We'd watch a Netflix and then a couple episodes of The Simpsons, and then we'd play a board game, and then we'd play video games until late.
And then it'd be what do we do now? And we'd be sitting around going, I don't know what to do. And then we talk for an hour, which would have been a podcast if we had recorded it, but we just talked.
Yep. And then we'd cook a full dinner and then go to bed.
Yep.
Too bad we do a podcast.
Too bad. Well, even if we didn't do the podcast, we'd still be screwed in the current situation. So at least we're making something, and maybe one day someone will, cook us dinner in exchange for podcasts. Maybe we should do that. Hey, guys, if someone doesn't come and cook us dinner 5 nights a week, podcast is over. That's it. So if you want this podcast to continue, you should come and move to Beacon, and you will get paid $10 a day, so $50 a week to cook dinners.
Well, we could clear out the closet under the stairs, put a little bed in there. That could be it. If you cook us dinner 5 nights a week, you can live in that closet.
I think that violates the rents.
I'm fine with
the
that.
lease, whatever.
All right, I think this Thursday is done.
This Thursday is indeed done, but the world sucks for single commuters. We're supposed to live in the city, but we don't, so it fucks us.
But that's fine, because eventually we'll have our own Front Row Crew studio and office space up here, and the mansion on that land we're going to buy.
Yeah, you wish.
It's coming.
We'll see.
Actually called. It looks like that land has sewer.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking into buying it.
We should walk over this weekend and, poke it.
Yeah, we'll do all the poking.
I got to take a look at the dirt.
It's good dirt.
Yeah, that's how you know. If it's full of rocks, it's not good.
All right, we're done. This has been Geeknights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music.
Be sure to visit our website at www.frontrowcrew.com, where you'll find show notes, links, our awesome forum, a link to our Frapper map, and links to all the RSS feeds.
We say feeds plural because Geeknights airs 4 nights a week, covering 4 different brands of geekery. Mondays are science and technology. Tuesdays, we have video games, board games, and RPGs. Wednesdays are anime, manga, comic nights. And Thursdays are the catch-alls for various rants and tomfoolery.
You can send us feedback by email to geeknights@frontrowcrew.com. Or you can send audio feedback via audio. Just click the link that says Send Me an Audio on the right side of our website.
If you like what you hear, you can catch the last 100 episodes in iTunes or in your favorite podcatcher. For the complete archives, visit the website, which has everything.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 2.5 license. This means you can do whatever you want with it as long as you give us credit, don't make money, and share it in kind. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.